Hello! We're at the end of January 2024, and we've finished January release period almost a week ago. And you know that we finished it because in this status issue, you can see that all of the tables have check marks littering each of the cells. But really, how do we know whether or not the January 2024 CPU went well at Eclipse Adoptium? And how do we know as it compares against other releases that we've done? We track this, in fact. We actually end up doing playing a little golf at Adoptium, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. What does it really mean when I say that? We keep scorecards against all of our past releases ever since we moved to Eclipse Foundation, and even the dry run prior to moving, to see how long did it take us to actually release the products we are building, testing, and finally distributing out to people who are adopters of Adoptium and the Temurin binaries that we produce. So I will mention that we set some targets for ourselves. We want to release primary platforms within 2 days. So within 2 days. So less than 2 days is even better. Secondary platforms within 7 days. Less than 7 is better. And I will note that what do we mean by primary targets in these tables? The things that are in bold are the primary targets. The things that are not in bold are the secondary targets. We also end up working through a release by prioritizing JDK 17 as the first version we'll start to work on, all things being equal if all GA tags are available at the same time, moving through 21 and 11, and finally 8 at the end of that if all tags happen to be available at the same time. And that is the case of what happened in the January 2024 release. And we can see that that is likely reflected in some of these scores. So first, before we get to what the golf score is, I wanted to say just a few words about the digging into each of the releases. So we look at the numbers for January 2024 CPU activity, and we can see that, oh, okay, we met our targets for one of the primaries here, but we got it done in 2 days. We wanted to be within 2 days. Yes, we were on time. In the case of another primary, however, AArch64 Linux, we didn't release within 2 days. It took 5 days. So no, we weren't on time. Now this being JDK 8, and we prioritized 11, which we made our targets very nicely under target. And we prioritized 17, and there's some remarkable numbers showing up here. The GA tags arrived, and we were able to build, test, and release this within that same day of the tag showing up. So within the 24-hour period. Okay, but I'm not going to spend a long time on this. These numbers are then taken up to the top to see, okay, what were the overall numbers when you cumulatively add the days over those kind of the norm that we're trying to reach and under. And we're going to take those numbers and create a golf score out of them. And here we'll also put any notes that might have caused us to have some bigger numbers than we expected, things that would have slowed down the release, just so that as memory serves us, we don't need to remember that, oh, there was some little bit of respins needed, and that's maybe reflective in our final golf scores. So looking at what this is, a golf score is really just a mechanism that I've created to be able to compare a high-level number across all different releases that we've done. It's Essentially, if you've ever played golf, we're using the meaning of par to be an average or a norm, the accepted standard. So our target of 2 days is the par for the primary platforms, and 7 days is the par for the secondary platforms. And those are the numbers we're trying to beat. So taking those numbers for January and cumulatively taking them for all 41 products we released, we had 15 days where we were over par. That might have been only a few things we slipped and didn't make our targets on, but cumulatively that added up to 15 days. And good news is that we were well under par for lots of those products, in fact 65. So we take over minus under to get our golf score of minus 50. And the reason we want this score is then we want to be able to compare how was January as compared to October or September or July. Now, noting that these numbers on their own, yes, you can use them, but some of our releases are little, we're only releasing one JDK version, so we're not really releasing a whole lot of products at this time. So it should be easier for the teams working on a release to be able to deliver that with a better score than it is for something where we're starting to see really big numbers here. So I am going to throw this out there to say, okay, if I just look at golf score alone, April 2023 was the best golf score. But I'm making a statement in the sand that says we were off by one and we released a couple extra things than we did in April. So I consider January 2024 to be the best numbers, the best release we've had to date. It ran very smoothly, and kudos to all the people who worked on this release for getting things out quickly and with minimal disruption and even with that a couple of platforms needing a respin for JDK 11. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're trying to track. In future versions of these scorecards, we will be adding a few extra metrics that we can measure, including how long it takes us to distribute the Docker containers and Linux installers and so forth. So we're always looking for ways to improve what we do, but it has to be data driven, and this is some of the data that we look at. Thanks very much for learning how we play golf at Eclipse Adoptium.